We always start punctually, it's 5:30. So I want you to help me join me in welcoming a very brainy girl called Hou Yifan. As you probably know, Hou is a Chinese chess grandmaster and the youngest female ever to qualify for this title. She's a former two-time world chess champion, having won this title for the first time when she was only 16 years old. And I think you're now, what, 21? Yes. 21, okay. Can we switch off the music? There's some background music. Oh, the buskers, right. Chuck tomatoes. And I want you all also to help me welcome Dominic Lawson. Dominic, very old friend of mine, is principal leader page columnist for the Sunday Times and has a similar role in the Daily Mail, for which he was last year named columnist of the year in the British Press Award. Between 1990 and 2005, he was successively editor of The Spectator and the Sunday Telegraph. He was elected the president of the English Chess Federation in 2014. He writes a monthly chess column for Standpoint magazine and is the author of the acclaimed book, The Inner Game, about the World Chess Championship. Now, he's presented 3 series of Across the Board for the BBC, a program in which he interviews chess masters while simultaneously playing them. That must be a disadvantage unless he cheats off camera. But whatever he did, he interviewed Yifan and he lost. So no amount of distraction was able to disturb the Grandmaster. I just wanted to say how wonderful it is to have a subject like chess. I'm a very amateur chess player, although I was a great enthusiast and I played in tournaments when I was very young. And I dared to play Yifan because I know that she was thrashing me in 4 moves or 5. This afternoon, Yifan gave a simultaneous display with a number of young players, and she thrashed them all, but she was very patient, I gather, explaining to them that they've got to be better. Now, can I just ask one question? Who does not play chess here? Well, why are you here? It's interesting. But it is an esoteric world, and I'm very pleased that so many of you are here. So the format is very simple. Dominic is going to interview, as it were, or have a conversation with Yifan for about 20-25 minutes. Then I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. And then I want you, the audience, to ask questions, both of Yifan and Dominic. So without further ado, Dominic, over to you, the Grandmaster of Question.
Actually, having heard David interview Chris Patton, the last governor of Hong Kong, and tie him in complete knots, I'm not sure I'm the best Grandmaster of Questioning. I think David has a lot of ability, which he's quite modest about. But no, I'm delighted to be here with Yifan. I think it's her first visit to London, although she has been to Britain before. And it's hard actually to really get one's head around what a remarkable talent she has, because she qualified for the World Championships at the age of 12. She got to the final at the age of 14. She became champion at 16. I think I'm right in saying she relinquished the title voluntarily. And one reason is that she is, I would say, the only female player who can play at the very, very highest level against the top male grandmasters, and therefore she has many commitments to play against the men in open tournaments. And I first met Yifan in the, I think it was 2012 in Gibraltar, which is the world's biggest open tournament. That's to say anyone can enter, but it's both men and women. And it has about 90 or even 100 grandmasters from all over the world. And Yifan actually, something that's never before happened, she, at the end of the tournament, she was level on points first. She won. No one's done this, won a male tournament. In fact, then she had a playoff match against the British Grandmaster Nigel Short and a former World Championship finalist, and she lost. And I must say, Nigel is a very good friend of mine, but I did have mixed feelings because I thought it would have been historic if Yifan could have won, and she probably thinks it's an opportunity missed. But I wanted to ask you first, Yifan, how old were you when you first started playing?
Well, I started when I was 5.5 years old, and that happened when I saw the chess pieces over the shop, and then I thought it was very attractive to do the shape of the pieces. And then my parents were thinking that whether should let me to learn kind of mind games whenever Go or chess, but then I chose the chess for this reason. So that's why I go to the chess world. And before my learning, my parents none of them can play chess, even for my big family. Only my father and my grandfather, can play Chinese chess.
But Xinhua, Chinese chess,
Yes.
is more popular in China than what we call chess, isn't it?
Well, that was for past years, because their elder generation was very fascinated by Chinese chess, because it's our tradition, right? But then, more young people are fascinated by chess because there's more variety in chess. There are more combinations. And it's international. We have more than 100 country members, so it's more useful for, I think, for children to learn chess.
And when did you first start really studying chess hard?
It's hard to say. It's like this. I started first 1.5 year at my hometown. And then my parents decided to bring me to another province to study to follow a very famous coach. And I think since then, I'm more or less serious for learning chess, although I'm still spending my whole time for studying and learning chess for the leisure time. And when I was 9, I won the World Youth Under 10 for the girls section. And then I went to the national team place for the training. At that time, then step by step, I'm going to the international tournaments, going to the international competition field. Since then, I think I'm more or less studying very serious.
Now, it strikes me that the pattern in China is quite different, that I've seen that some of the youngest Chinese players essentially are taken out of conventional schools and they concentrate on chess to a large extent. Whereas in this country, that doesn't really happen. Were you taken out of school, basically, when you were quite young and concentrating more on chess?
Not really. Okay, I finished my studies most of the time. Okay, but later on when in the high school, because I have a lot of tournaments, I think maximum there's 12 tournaments per year for when I have to go abroad to play. And also there are many national tournaments, which means more than half the time I'm playing chess. And except that I have to train, I have to analyze it, I have to improve, so there's not enough time to study, full-time study. So I just do some part-time studying for my interesting field, as what I'm doing now, since I'm also studying university. And for some of the Chinese kids, what I heard nowadays, they're spending all their time on chess. For example, I happen to know a girl who is more or less 10 years old, and their parents told my parents that the girl wants to spend more or less 8 or 10 hours a day to learn chess. Okay, I thought, how to say, it's a very brave decision, but somehow I feel that you should have some general learning, basic learning for your future, even for your future chess study, because it will be useful. So I think what happened here, the children do the normal study is the best way.
Yes, I mean, I think that it strikes me that certainly the boys in China, they're concentrating completely on chess. That you've taken the decision, as you've just mentioned, to go to university. And as the audience can hear, you've also made a brilliant effort to learn English, and you speak it well. A lot of the male Chinese chess players do not. And I thought, is it that for them, chess is kind of everything in their life? There's very little else, but you see it as part of a fuller life.
Well, it's hard to say. I think it mainly depends on individuals. Coincidentally, most of our men players who is only interested in chess and doesn't really care about their study, you cannot say it's not good because they reach a very high level. They won the team tournament, and for individual prizes, they're also going to very high. So it's good. And also studying more or less, it influences a little bit of your chess improvement. And if you combine very good, you can keep on that level. And even for some of our girl players, they also not very fascinating about studying. They also want to play chess and participate in different tournaments. But for me, it's not, how to say, I hope the life could be more colorful.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a quote from when you went to see a chess trainer quite early on, and Chinese coach, and he said that he immediately realized that you were an exceptional genius. And I wonder whether you came under any pressure to concentrate completely on chess from sporting authorities, that they wanted you to just be 100% fixed on chess.
Actually, not that well. Yes, from our national team's coach, actually, they don't really wanted me to go to university and a few years ago, because they wanted me to only concentrate on chess to win more tournaments. But then I said, no, I already wasted 1 year. Cannot say waste, but it's for me it's kind of. And now I want to study. I don't think that study will influence my flying. I hope that with new horizons for the different field, it will have back for the chess understanding, and you can think the moves in another way, in another perspective. So I thought that it's not negative. I hope it will have a positive impact.
And when you were very young and you were winning against strong male players, grandmasters and whatever, did it ever strike you as slightly unusual, or was it just to you completely normal?
Well, for me it's no, because I don't really think that chess separates for the male section and the female section. I think it mostly depends on the ratings on the different level. So if you're in the, for example, 300, so you should compete with the players from 300 or 400, not you should compete with the girls or the boys.
Because one thing I've noticed is you recently played in a women's Grand Prix tournament.
Yes.
And you annihilated, you came 2 clear points ahead of the rest of the field, which I can tell non-chess players 2 points is a colossal margin. Normally there's a tie for first, or there's a half a point difference. 2 points it's like in football, it's like winning the Premiership with maybe a 15-point margin. And I thought, and at the same time there was a millionaire prize in Las Vegas, which was basically men. And there was the World Blitz Championship, basically men. And I thought, why is Yifan playing in a women's tournament, which she obliterates everyone, when she could be playing for big money in Las Vegas? And I wondered, I was sort of surprised about that.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because due to the current system of World Chess Federation, so if a woman player wants to keep your world champion title, you have to play 1 year match and 1 year knockout system. And since the knockout system is really cannot be a world championship, it should be a World Cup. So the high quality is for the match. For the match, there's 2 qualifying place, and one is from the champion of the knockout system, and the other is the overall winner of Grand Prix cycle, which is 6 stages. A player should choose 4 stages out of 6 in 2 years. So that's why I decided to participate in a new cycle for Women's Grand Prix, since I'm still thinking that probably it's not the time to entirely quit for women's section. So I have no choice.
This is what surprised me, because I think, to me, you have nothing left to prove in women's chess. And I just wondered whether you should just say, well, I became world champion at 16. Yes, I could win it kind of almost whenever I wanted to, if I put my mind to it. But I just thought maybe you should just say, that's gone. That if I want to get really to improve, I have to play against players who are better than me, the very, very top male grandmasters.
Yeah, of course. I thought that now I should more focus on the main field to improve myself. But in the meantime, I don't think it's the right moment to totally sacrifice for women's selection, as I think my level is not entirely high for others. But probably I should think more serious about what to do for next, because I still say I should participate in more practical field to improve myself. But in the meantime, because it's world record ability, and for record ability, it's not very useful for improving. Just play by hand. Okay, I mean this is kind of tournament that require very high talent to reach. And then while Magnus Carlsen is playing, all the top 10 players playing, I thought I could practice there, but there's less chance to really get a very high.
It's interesting you're talking about sort of concentrating for long periods, because one thing I did notice about Yifan when I first saw her playing in Gibraltar was most of the other players, and I'm talking, they were mostly men, they get up from the board quite a lot, they walk around, they have a coffee, they look at the other boards, they might share a joke with someone. Yifan did not move from her seat for the 6 or 7 hours she was playing. And not only that, but your eyes seemed just fixed on the board the whole time. And occasionally you would look at the opponent, but not very often. And it struck me that you have phenomenal powers of concentration. And I wonder whether you feel that this is really the secret, is just to be able to concentrate incredibly powerfully for very long periods without being distracted by what's going on near you or nearby.
Well, actually it depends, probably during the Gibraltar, since all my opponents most of them are above 2,700, while I'm facing the strong opponent, I should be concentrating, otherwise it will be easy to go for a blunder and not the game without high quality. So I have to play the game that satisfies myself. That's why I'm concentrating. But when I was young, it's not always like this. For example, I remember that during the Olympics when I'm playing for Chinese women's team, and then my captain always said to me, please be seated and concentrate on your court, not always travel around and see all the different games. Because in the Olympiad, thousands of players playing in the hall, and it's easy for me to walk around to see other players' game. So it really depends on the tournament in the specific situation. But generally speaking, I think I'm fine to insist for 6 or 7 hours for a game.
And do you think, because one thing that is always discussed is why is it that although on the face of it, there should be no reason why men are better at chess than women, because it's fundamentally, it's not a contest of physical strength. Is it in fact maybe a bit more physical than people might realize, that actually to concentrate for that period of time, for day after day after day after day, does require a kind of brute strength, and that the advantage of males is not a kind of differently wired brain or anything of the sort, but just there is that, you might say, sort of physical power which depletes, and you only have so much of it.
I think it's one of the very important reasons, actually, probably most of people will ignore it, because we know that for the physical sports, of course, men is better with a better energy. But for chess, actually, it also requires a lot, because you should thinking for all 6 or 7 hours non-stop, and the woman might feel tired easily. But also, I think there are also some difference inside the brain, because probably we think for a question from different perspective. For example, the woman sometimes is more emotional, okay, from my personal opinion. And when you are under time pressure, probably you will, be how to say, just threatened and easily to make a move, and it might be an obvious blunder. But for men, you can concentrate even for the last few seconds and play a move calmly. So it's also a very important
Yes,
quality.
although I have seen, I must say, Yifan has been rather unfair to herself, because I saw a game that you played against the one of the top Hungarian grandmasters, Richard Rapport, and you beat him, and he was not looking calm at all. He was looking quite emotional, and I think you trapped him, and you were looking extremely calm, and he was not looking happy at all. So maybe
that's an exceptional case. Yes, I remember, because he also offered me a draw. time limit when both of us has only 1 or 2 minutes left. But maybe because he's very young, he's even younger than me. But I'm just saying for the general case, not for the specific case, probably there's some difference.
And do you think that male grandmasters, mind losing to you more than they mind losing to one of their male colleagues? Do you sense that they feel particularly badly about losing to you?
Well, I cannot say for the previous time, but now I think they will think it's okay because I'm not like the freshman only play there for the first time or the second time. We are playing several games. For example, I play with world number, for example, Carolina. I played with him like for 6 or 7 times, and he's one of the top-rated 2 players. So I think we will get used to play each other, not because that I'm a woman player, so we'll be more serious.
Because I was recounting to Yifan that, I hope she doesn't mind, but in the last Gibraltar tournament, she played Peter Svidler, who is 5 times Russian champion, one of the world's strongest players, and he was winning against Yifan, and then something went wrong, and she did a devilish trick, and he drew, and I met him at the party at the end of the tournament, and I said to Peter, Peter, how was the tournament for you? And he said, it was fine, he said, until that game. And I said to him, he just said to me, that girl. He was absolutely furious. And I felt, and he's a nice man, actually, Peter Svidler. He's a very nice man, but he was clearly very, very upset. And I suddenly thought, would he have behaved like that if it had been a male player who had done this to him? I don't know, but his reaction was sort of, that girl.
Well, but even he's upset, but he's still, very nice, very kind to talk with me after the game, and even during the dinner, he ran to me and said, I had a winning chance at the end.
So, as you, I think, said, you've been studying now at university.
Yes.
For 2 years so far?
No, already 3 years.
And would you like to say what it is you're studying?
Yes, I'm studying international relations, and I'm mainly focused on foreign, diplomatic kind of this, yes. And after my graduation, I'm still thinking for my master's study. And probably I will change the field related to the public affairs.
Because you would be a very good diplomat for your country, actually, because of your chess, you've had a unique opportunity to travel all over the world.
Yes.
Do you ever think that being in the diplomatic area would appeal to you?
That was my original idea to choose for this major. But later on, I realized that first, this area is too specific, and it's hard in China to qualify for the diplomatic system, although I have a great chance. But later I realized if I do that, I will mainly connect the politics with sports. But what I hope to do in the future is to connect chess with the international organization, this kind of things. So this is like my interest changed. So probably I will think for my future in another way. And
do you envisage maybe living overseas, in this country perhaps, if the opportunity arose, or America?
Well, it's too far now. I just think that probably I will do my master's study abroad.
Abroad?
Yeah, to experience a different educational system.
Yes, yes. And do you have days when you don't think about chess at all? Or is it even when you're at university, is it still going through your mind a lot?
Actually, it happens, and not rare. Because, for example, even during the final exams of the semester, I will be busy all the day to review the classes, and I don't have time really to study chess. And also, for example, when I'm doing the conversation here, I don't really just think about the chess itself, but of course the subject related to chess.
There was something I was asking Yifan earlier when we were together, having a glass of water, and it's something which interests me, and it's a question which is, what is going on in your head when you were playing chess. It really fascinates me. What's actually happening in there? Are you aware of something? Do you see things? Is it completely abstract? Is it visual patterns that you see? What's actually going on? Because you're there for hour after hour after hour. And what you're doing is, and I know from my experience, it is very, very difficult. I think people maybe outside the game don't understand just how difficult it is. And I'm wondering what is actually happening up there.
Actually, it's hard to say. We can say from your previous experience, right? And for me, I don't really think about this question because when you're thinking over the board, mainly you're focused on the specific move orders and the focus on the strategy. And you're not really thinking that what I'm thinking now. But when you were asking this question first, early in the afternoon, I was thinking that probably it's the image of the chessboard, of the chess pieces. Probably. I don't really have a specific idea what I'm really thinking on. But I know that after some intense tournament, after the game, the first few seconds or minutes, your brain is blank.
And when you're playing chess, if you make a mistake, do you feel a sort of, what do you feel, your heart racing? What actually happens when you make a mistake or a blunder or miscalculation? Can you describe that?
It depends. Sometimes if the position is still very complicated, probably I will just trying to focus on the rest of the games, although it's very hard. But if this is just a very simple mistake and lead yourself to a losing position, then most often it's just a regret. So it's just like, why you can make this move? This shouldn't the mistake that you can make. But sometimes, it's better that if you didn't realize you made a mistake, then you could, really think in a normal way and trying to continue the game, find any single chance to fight.
And have you ever played a game which you regard as perfect?
Perfect. I hope that it still didn't happen, and in the future there will be a better one. But now, if you want me to point the game, probably there's actually 2 games from same tournament, probably the different year. When actually it's with Nader in white and say, and I play white with him, and this is a short game. Probably he didn't really play well because at that time I'm still a young girl, and he wanted to play some weird opening, try to scare me. But I played just normal moves and step by step improve my position, and finally there is okay, I think it's a beautiful combination, and I want to catch his king side. And the other game I'm playing is with the Spanish Grandmaster Hou Yifan. Yes, that game, why I like it, because it contains a very deep calculation, and I found all the precise moves to win the game.
And when you say deep calculation, can you explain to the audience here what that means? How many moves is that, or how many variations?
It's not like, for example, 20 or 30 moves in a row. It's like there's a tree, and for example, if you choose this move, and there's 2 possibilities, and after that there's 4, 6, and you should consider each branch. So if you add all of them, it will be a lot of moves. I think each variation probably is 6, 8, or 10, and if there's 5 or 6, it will be 15 or 16 moves. I cannot really say exactly the number, but there's a lot.
And have you ever played blindfold chess?
Yes, actually I played twice in the Smart Core Worldwide Games for all the session, and luckily I won two times. And then in the 3rd year, the World Chess Federation decided to cancel this system, and they said because you won all the titles, so we shouldn't allow you.
So you won every time?
Yes, and they changed it to basket system, which means a player having 2 boards in the meanwhile, and this player was black, that player was white, and you cannot mix the pieces, of course, and then to calculate the points.
Yeah. So, and when you're playing blindfold chess, can you play almost as well as when you have the board in front of you, or is it a significant difference?
Of Of course, there's some difference because when you cannot see the board, especially after 30 or 40 moves, you already have a lot of variations in your mind. And if you keep thinking too much, you probably will be, too messy in your brain. And my Blindfold experience is not well enough to tell some descriptions for the Blindfold play, but I think this is totally different for the normal play, and the quality, at least for my level, will be lower.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you see your chess career developing, say, in the next 3 or 4 years? What are your ambitions at the moment?
Well, firstly, back to the previous times, I approached 2,500 6 years ago, and then I'm studying that level for 2 years, and that has a big improvement. And I just crossed 650, I think, last year. How about I could keep this improvement and then to reach the higher level of the rating? Because I think the rating can demonstrate your level best because it calculates for every single game. And then you have to improve your general play, not like one tournament brilliant and another tournament damage. You should combine your play.
And one last question before throwing it open. How important now is the computer in terms of chess, your preparation, and your analysis?
Yeah, it's very important, but there's two aspects. The first, of course, is positive because with the help of computer, you can study opening very specifically, and sometimes the preparation can last for the 20 or even 30 moves. So it means that you don't need to reach the top level. You can calmly through the opening and probably surprise your higher level opponent. So this means if you spend more time on that, if you work more seriously, and you will get better position after the opening. But the negative influence is that due to the computer, there's less attractive games appear because everyone can analyze after their moves played once. And although it looks very beautiful, but if it's inaccurate, no one will play for the second time. So it makes chess more or less a bit boring. So that's why in this case the feature chess appeared, because the pieces are random, and then you are really play the chess with the moves, the thinking on your head, not like your memory.
Actually, there's one further point that you use the word beautiful, and I think you used that word more than once. Is it actually the beauty of chess which motivates you more than anything else?
Sorry. Yeah, I think so. Not motivated me the most is not the result of chess that I won this tournament or I get which level, but it's the beauty. And the attractive point is that I could show some very brilliant games, brilliant idea, even didn't win that game, but it already shows that you have your own idea. So that's the most important thing for me. So for example, I won this Grand Prix, as you mentioned before, that with 2 points, but only very few games I'm satisfied. So I cannot say that I'm 100% satisfied with my tournament in Monaco last Grand Prix, although I had a very big advantage.
Good, okay. Well, I hope I haven't exhausted all the possible questions. David, did you have any, or would you like to throw out?
Yes, I just want to ask a couple of questions. Are you very good at mathematics, and are you interested in music?
For mathematics, when I was young, yes, I'm good at that, but then I don't have enough time to do further study, so now I cannot say that for sure. And for music, yes, I like to listen to different type of music, so I cannot say that this is also one of my, how to say, it's just interests.
Just that I've heard that there's a connection, a natural connection between music, mathematics, and games like chess.
Music, I'm not sure, but for mathematics, of course.
What music do you listen to? Classical or pop?
When I was young, only pop, but now I also listen to some classical.
Yes. And the second question I was going to ask you is, I mean, when you play chess, you're very limited by what you can do. There's 64 squares, pieces on the board, and so forth. And Dominic has already mentioned that you absolutely concentrate for 6 hours, and you just don't let go. That concentration, we were trying to imagine what you're thinking. So all this time, you are just thinking about chess, aren't you? I mean, do you have any distractions at all, or do you just look at the board and you think of nothing else? You see everything in the shapes of knights, rooks, queens, bishops, and so forth, and pawns.
Yeah, I think we need concentration for sure. For example, there are a few times that I got distracted, and then my result is not good. I made some obvious blunders. And I would like to point that chess, although the chessboard is limited, only 64 squares and 32 pieces, but chess itself is how to say, unlimited, because it contains a lot of idea, a lot of how to say, theory, and also some not reasons, but something can also learn for the daily life. So I thought chess is really helpful for a different world, and for myself, of course, I think it should be concentrated. And that's why the players need a very quiet place for concentration. That's why when the audience come to watch the game, you should switch off your mobile phone and to make sure there's no any single noise. Because otherwise,
why don't you use earplugs?
Well, normally we don't use that because it's not very healthy if you use it all the time. But when there's some live during the game in the same hall, actually I use that because all the time the voice comes to your mind, you cannot really think, fully concentrate.
All right. One other question. When you sit down, do you value the king or the queen?
No. Okay, the king is
I ask you this because I just think instinctively, if you value the king more, you're more of a defensive player. If you value the queen more, you're more of an attacking player. So I just want to know, when you sit down, when you adjust the keys, do you consciously say, I got to look after you, king, or I'm going to use you, queen, to annihilate everybody?
Because the king is unique, not means how to say, I want to defend the queen means I'm a defensive player. Because if you lost the king, the game is over. But if you lost the queen, the game continues. So they are not in the same manner.
All right, well, next time we play, you give me the queen, and we'll carry on.
In return.
That Yifan is a ferocious attacking player, I would say. Maybe less than when you were younger, but still you play e4.
Yes.
You play very sharp attack.
Also Sicilian.
Yeah, and you play Sicilian black. So.
Do you play any gambits at all?
Gambit.
Do you ever play Queen's Gambit? Certainly not King's Gambit, I shouldn't imagine.
No. Maybe rare times, but mostly no. But I play Barrel.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether that's also one of the gambit.
All right, well look, let's have some chess speaks, if you like. Who has a question for Yifan? Yes.
Hi, my name is Phil Hare. I'm a parent, so I'm interested in your development as a chess player and as a person growing up. So rapidly, what is the name of your school, your high school, and where in China is it?
High school, okay.
And if I could follow up on David's question, he talked about you being good at mathematics. He asked if you were good at mathematics. I'd like to ask what subjects you enjoyed the most in high school. I'd like to encourage you in your international relations, because it's fabulous in my estimation for a chess player to get out of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics stereotype and apply to these social arts. And I think you will certainly have a bright career. Congratulations.
Name of your school and carry on with your studies.
Thanks for briefing me this.
Where is your...
Okay. The first question, okay, is simple, yeah. My high school is called the It's in Beijing, and one of the one of the top high school in China.
Beijing.
Yes, and but you know how to say, it's a bit complicated. But I didn't go from that school to my university because I'm just studying there, but I'm not belong there. So it's hard to explain. But I'm just studying
Where are
there.
you at university now?
Beijing University.
Beijing.
Yes, Beijing.
I was.
You were studying philosophy there, right?
I taught philosophy there.
Yes, and the second is
Joy.
yes, of course. I enjoy the study, and why I chose international relations because first was I talked with Dominic that I wanted to do some diplomatic things connected with chess, but later I realized through my study I like to study the specific area research. This one is very interesting, and also it connects with my chess tournament because I travel around to the different places, and besides my playing time, I'm just go to see some local spots, and then from time to time I found that this I read from the book, or that I heard from my teacher. There's some customs, there's some traditions, so it connects. This feeling is unique. So that's why I take my interest on this. It's not too academic, but it will wider horizons.
Dominic Lawson, his question to you alluded to the need for stamina for playing chess. A number of players these days seem to put a degree of store by physical fitness. Magnus Carlsen in particular, often seen exercising regularly when he's playing tournaments. Do you subscribe to that? Do you believe in physical exercise while playing? Well, not while playing, but while in the tournament.
Yeah, time to time I realized that it's very important. When I was young, I didn't really care of this. I thought that chess is basically on your play by your talent and play by your training. But later I realized that if you don't have a great shape, and then there's not enough air in your brain for you to insist thinking. So that's why I thought the physical exercise is important. That's probably also because I'm getting older, so I should keep exercising to keep on the same level.
Hello, yes, I'm president of Metropolitan Chess Club, one of London's oldest clubs. That's by the by. I'm also a strong feminist, so it's absolutely wonderful to see what you've achieved. I've also been for over 50 years since the start top board for Mensa, which is a led society for high IQ intelligence. Okay, there are other forms of intelligence, as we know. So I just wonder, I went out to the Bobby Fischer match in Iceland, who said he had a high S factor, and Morphy did. The better ones have a high G factor, that's intelligence. And I wonder if what your IQ is, if it's been measured.
Not yet.
585.
Honestly speaking, not yet. Because I'm not really trusting this kind of testing, why? Because I'm not really sure about the testing system. Sometimes there are, database of all the questions, and if you happen to know this question or familiar with this logic thinking, then you can solve it easily. So I don't really trust for this kind of things, and I think that people's IQ probably good at different fields as well.
Yeah. So just a supplementary question. You mentioned beauty. Now Tarash said, chess, like love, like music, has the power to make men, I should say people, happy. And there was one other question I had. To what extent does intuition play a part over the board in chess?
Sorry, I didn't really
Intuition, gut feeling,
Instinct.
instinct, yes.
So what you mean intuition?
When you play, are you disturbed? I mean, obviously, chess is a logical game.
Yes.
The question is, do you suddenly have a bright spark?
Yeah, I see.
Something that you feel, well, perhaps I ought to try that. It might not be logical, but I have a gut feeling, I have an instinct.
Yes, and especially nowadays, I feel that it happens regularly. Even sometimes I feel that I never see this game, I never had this idea before, but somehow maybe in my dream I had happened to know this before, and then I just play by hand without any thinking. It just looks to me very familiar, but I'm sure that in the real life I have never seen it before. So it also puzzled me a moment, that's why it happened.
All right. Bearded man.
Oh, thank you.
Here, there's a...
Sorry, am I in the wrong?
No.
Somebody else.
No. You look
Thank
more
you.
senior.
Oh, well, certainly, yeah. Most people, I think. I have a very different question. Maybe it's for our lady champion, possibly also for Dominic, I'm not sure. But I'm not a competitive chess player. Used to be, I admit. But when I found my level, I wasn't interested in improving it. My main chess interest over 70, that's 70, not 17 years, has been the chess endgame study. And endgame studies are composed positions which say white to play and win, or white to play and draw. Now my question really is about China. In all my 70 years, I can't recall hearing of a single Chinese composer, native Chinese composer of endgame studies. And this puzzles me. Perhaps they exist and I haven't heard of them, in which case I'd love to get in touch with one or two. But it's something that I think calls for an explanation, and I wonder if our two eminent panelists could comment.
So just like there's no Chinese endgame books, right?
No, I think what you're talking about is the problem, the chess problem.
No,
Not an endgame.
not making two, not making those are problems.
But
That's
we're
much
talking about
fun.
Troitsky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Troitsky, the Russians have got
Yeah.
dozens of famous
Sam
composers. He was a problemist, not a study man,
Yeah.
right? So this is so much of my life, I find it difficult to imagine people who don't know about endgame studies, but I would say that many commentators, annotators of games use the word study-like. Study-like. That happens all the time in pretty well any tournament where you read the games that are annotated. This is a study-like move. But the people who write that don't know much about studies. And I think this is opening a possibility that's to be developed. But to come back to my question, I think there are no, to my knowledge, there are no Chinese composers of studies to compare with Russians like Troitsky or Frenchmen like Rink. There are dozens of them, but not a single Chinese one. Have I made myself clear?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
When did China begin to play chess, first of all? I mean, obviously Russia has got a tremendous history.
Yeah.
When did China begin
Well,
to be conscious?
I think since 80s or 90s.
Yes, exactly.
No, in the 70s, I think there was a Chinese-Philippine matches.
That was what?
Matches between the Philippines and China. They had
Yes,
two
there
matches,
was
74 and 78, I think.
Yeah, there's some people playing, but I mean, a best of member and some good results appeared. I think since 80s.
But I mean, Russia obviously has a tremendous history of chess playing.
I mean, as I understand it, I mean, Yifan will know it, but on the other hand, it predates your birth, that during the Soviet period, there were, the Soviets did send some teams to play China as part of the rapprochement they wanted to make with Mao Zedong politically. And that kicked it off. You then had the Cultural Revolution, which was a complete disaster, and anything that was essentially, well, not Chinese, was essentially banned. And basically it just stopped. It just stopped totally. And so that set it back terribly, like it set back many things terribly in China. And then it came, as you say, in the 80s, it then recovered. And it is astonishing, I think, what has happened in terms of Chinese chess, that when you think that it really had to start again in the 1980s as a very minority sport, where Chinese chess is basically the main variant. And really from a standing start, we've now got, as I said, China is now the dominant, probably becoming the dominant country. I mean, it won the Olympiad, it won the team championship, has the strongest woman player. Russia, it's certainly true that Russia has still, I would say, the deepest chess culture. And it is sort of rooted in the society in a way it probably isn't in China, and certainly isn't in this country. So there's a richness there in tradition, which is still kind of second to none. But in terms of competitive results, the Chinese performance in the last few years has been astonishing, I would say.
Anyway, I'm sorry about no reference to your end game studies.
That was my question.
I have come across these books, I've come across these problems. I find them so boring because they would get to it first. And you know, I'd sooner know how to get to it rather than get to it.
I would defend it. I would say they do have. I mean, Troitsky, I have seen I have studied them, and they are astonishing, and they are sort of almost paradoxical. I mean, there is a kind of to use your term, there's a kind of beauty in them, which is sort of almost unearthly. But I think what it doesn't fulfill so much is the competitive urge. And certainly when one studies games between people, one is very conscious of two minds clashing. One's very conscious of, I'm not saying it's like watching a rugby match in the World Cup, but there's an element of that. The competition, the fight is itself rather enthralling, at least I feel that. Maybe that's a very male approach. And I don't feel you get that with what you're talking about. It's beautiful. I mean,
it's like a mating two problem. All right, I'm sure you disagree.
Am I another supplementary question?
No. Go on.
Hi, I'm Tom from LSE and I study anthropology. Not an expert or in the chessboard, but it's fascinating, but at the same time surprising to see from the conversation that there might be a pattern or even systematic gender discrimination in the chess world. But rather to think of it as something real, I kind of feel it's more like a culture. I want to ask if that's true. And if that's the case, is it different in China or is it everywhere the same?
Is there feminine discrimination in chess? Discrimination against women. Is there a discouragement in China and other countries? You can answer the one in China. Do people discourage girls from playing chess?
No, actually I think it's a positive situation, especially in previous time the Chinese women's result is much better.
When you started playing chess, did everybody say, oh, it's fantastic? Or did they say, no, don't bother?
No, they encourage girls to play.
Are there countries which have discrimination?
Well, I think, I do think, in fact, I'm very keen obviously in promoting chess among girls, and I arranged with Malcolm Payne, who's here, for Yifan to play just girls. I tried to find the strongest girls of age 9 or 10, and Yifan was incredibly gracious and analysed it afterwards with them. I don't think there is much now. I do think, this is why I asked Yifan about this question of playing in women's tournaments. I think if you want to end that kind of what looks like discrimination, or two worlds, you have to make it open. You have to break, it has to be just, we're all going to play together. And there is a certain pressure, I suspect, that if a state, whether it's a Chinese state or whatever, sees, oh well, we have here the best woman chess player, it's very tempting to say...
I think you should now, from now on, start dressing up like a boy and just go for it.